Hello everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 and welcome to another edition of the Batwoman Season 2 review series, and today I am going to be talking about episode 7, It's Best You Stop Digging, which I have just finished watching, and this was an episode I thought was pretty good and pretty solid and certainly a lot better than episode 6, even though I'm not saying that episode 6 was terrible. I just thought it was a little bit weak, and episode 7 was definitely a lot more stronger. There was one moment that occurred I wouldn't necessarily say was a bad thing. It was still good, but I felt a big moment like this, which I'll get into momentarily, should have been saved for maybe the season finale, or at least second to last, because we're only 7 episodes into season 2 already, and we've already had a big moment like this happen, and I just felt it was a little bit rushed and should have been burned out a little bit more slowly before we get to the big payoff, but I'll talk about that in a moment. As we all remember, back in the season premiere, Ryan Wilder sustained a kryptonite injury at the hands of Thomas Elliot, who disguised himself as Bruce Wayne, and he blasted her with a shard of kryptonite. Now, anyone who's seen most of the episodes of Batwoman will remember that this shard of kryptonite can apparently pierce through the Batsuit, which is what's happened to Ryan Wilder. So she's kept the kryptonite injury to herself so far, but of course she can't keep it a secret any longer. Luke Fox now knows, and we've seen now that the kryptonite injury is getting worse and worse, and we see the wound is building up green veins and it's just blistering out before your very eyes. So that kind of comes to a little bit of a head in this episode, and also due to the effects of the kryptonite injury that she sustained, she starts hallucinating, which I thought was a really cool moment and kind of brought back some epic memories of what Scarecrow used to do in the comic books. So that was a good thing to see, and as I said, this was a pretty good solid episode, and the search for Kate Kane rages on. Now, I'm just curious to know whether or not we are actually going to see Kate Kane, or is there going to be some sort of ploy or twist to the tale, because as we all know, Ruby Rose has already left the show, and from my understanding it doesn't look like she's coming back anytime soon. But how are they going to pay this off, because they're searching for her, but I don't know really. It's just going to be interesting how this is all going to play out, but time will tell. Anyway, let's get right into it. Let's not waste any more time. Let's talk about episode 7, It's Best You Stop Digging. So Luke and Mary are treating Ryan's kryptonite injury, which is now causing her to have visions of herself getting revenge on Alice. Mary suggests asking Jacob to bring back a desert rose from Coriana, but Luke doesn't think that can work. Ryan being Ryan, she puts on the Batsuit, steals the Batmobile, and begins to hallucinate about her mother. Now, as we all remember, Ryan's mother was murdered at the hands of Alice's gang, and she blames Alice for that, so she obviously wants revenge on the death of her mother, and she wants to take out Alice by any means necessary. So you get to see that play out throughout this episode. Ryan, in her Batwoman costume, goes to visit Angelic in her apartment and asks for information on Ocean, and also learns that Angelic is cheating on her with another girl. Go figure. Angelic tells her Ocean's location and then pushes her off the balcony onto a car below. Ouch. Ryan is rescued by Mary and Luke from being found by the crows, but Ryan continues to have hallucinations, one in particular involving confronting Alice. Ryan wakes up and tells Mary she wants to find Ocean and Alice, even if it's the last thing she does. Alice brings Tatana's Ocean's body, all as a ploy to kidnap and interrogate her about the lost memories. As Tatana explains, Alice and Sapphire initially bonded over their shared hatred of Catherine Hamilton, and Sapphire decided to have Ocean train Alice into becoming one of Coriana's most loyal assassins. Alice and Ocean initially disliked each other, but clearly you could see that they had feelings for one another, which made Sapphire jealous because she had feelings for Alice. which she showed her by trusting her with the secret and backstory of the Desert Rose. Ocean then told Alice that he was going to smuggle out Desert Rose and asked her to join him, and they proceeded to hook up. Sapphire found out and had them both brainwashed, leading to Alice becoming the evil persona that Sapphire knew she was capable of being. When Zatanna tells Alice this, she goes and says her goodbyes to Ocean and decides to make her way to Coriana. Alice is then confronted by Batwoman, who takes off her cowl and wig and reveals her face to her. Now this is the moment that I was talking about, because, you know, Ryan's put on the bat suit, she's Batwoman, she's just trying to find her way and her feet, and then she goes and reveals her identity. I think you could have just saved that moment for maybe like the season finale, or at least the second to last, because you could have just had the whole season building it up. You know, each time she gets close to Alice, Alice runs away, or she escapes, or she taunts her and she doesn't have the guts to go through with taking her out. You know, you could have just slowly built that moment up, but I just felt, you know, her taking her cowl off and revealing her identity to Alice just felt a little bit rushed, in my opinion, but that's just me. So we see Ryan tries to fight Alice, but her kryptonite injuries make it too difficult and painful to fight. She gets close to killing Alice, but hallucinations of her mother stop her from doing so. We also see Alice and Zatanna travel back to Coriana. Sophie and Jacob track down Ethan Rogers, the doctor who caused Amy Gadler to kidnap Jacob and Mary. Along the way, Sophie reveals to Jacob that she knew about Mary's clinic but hid it from him for good reason. They track down Rogers and his fellow scientists, all of whom have died from injecting themselves with this lethal Desert Rose laced blood, and they also find the missing map. Jacob vows to stop at nothing to find Kate Kane and rescue her. So the last thing we see at the end of this episode is Ryan explains to Mary and Luke that she's put a tracking device in Alice's boot, and they're going to do everything they can to follow her to Coriana and get the Desert Rose and rescue Kate Kane. And that pretty much wraps up the end of episode 7 and my review. Overall, a very good episode, apart from that moment where, you know, Ryan Wilder revealed her identity to Alice and she showed her face. I don't think that should have happened. I think they could have saved that, like I said earlier, for the season 2 finale. But that's just my opinion. I just felt that, you know, when you have a brand new character like Ryan Wilder, you wanted to kind of build her up more, and for that big confrontation, you know, I just think that could have worked out better. But maybe they've got good reason for doing this, but I just felt that was a little bit rushed, in my opinion. But aside from that, this was still a pretty good solid episode, and I like the idea that the kryptonite injury makes Ryan Wilder hallucinate, so I thought that was a nice touch, and also a nice little callback to the comics where, you know, obviously kryptonite affects people like Superman and Supergirl, but it also affects humans, but only after a prolonged period of time and exposure to the green meteor rock. Something that happened with Lex Luthor in the Justice League animated series. But aside from that, this was still a pretty good episode, in my opinion. So I'm going to wrap this up now. What did you think of this episode? Did you enjoy it? What was your thoughts on the hallucinations that Ryan Wilder experienced due to the kryptonite injury? Did you enjoy it? Do you think Ryan taking her mask off and revealing her identity to Alice should have happened, or do you think they should have waited a little bit longer for that? And also, do you think Jacob will eventually find Kate Kane, or do you think there's going to be some twist in the tale? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will be back next time for another edition of the Batwoman Season 2 review series, where I'll be talking about Episode 8, which I am very much looking forward to talking about, and it should be a good one. So until next time, take care everybody, and stay safe, and once again, thanks for listening.